And we return to our top story, the ongoing conflict in Mali and French military involvement in Africa. Let's cross now to analyst Patrick Henningsen. He's joining me live from London for what he makes of all of this. The French want to leave Mali's security to African troops. Do you think those troops will be able to keep the situation under control?
I think this is a group of countries that is being trained mainly by the United States, the 15 ECOWAS nations. This is supposedly an African-led mission, but really, if you look under the surface of it, all these happenings in the last month or so dovetails perfectly into the United States AFRICOM directive agenda, which has been put in place in 2007 under Bush and has really caught pace under the Obama administration. So it could be a case of this is just an entree for bigger escalation on the Western powers in the future.
Well, we're seeing China, aren't we, exerting its influence and, of course, investing huge amounts in Africa. The two are going to clash, aren't they, with the US now exerting its influence?
It's funny because if you read the AFRICOM documents, and they are available online still, you'll see that one of the main theses of the creation of AFRICOM is to evict the Chinese from Africa. Phase one was Libya. That clearly was phase one. And as we can see quite clearly, the refugee problem created by the NATO's attack and regime change war in Libya has created a refugee problem in northern Mali, and also some of the same al-Qaeda forces that the West NATO was coordinating with in Libya. They're now, bits and pieces of them are on marauding through northern Mali. So you can't divorce what happened last year, 2 years ago in Libya from what's happening now.
Well, French special forces have secured a uranium mine in Niger. Does that suggest then that it is actually the pursuit of resources behind what's going on, the intervention in Mali, for example, and the US influence behind the scenes?
Sure. Areva is the French's a big nuclear fuel company, and funny enough, Areva is having massive problems with the Niger government over many things, workers' rights, construction schedules, and they were sort of losing favor with that contract. And lo and behold, this new crisis in Mali has given the French a perfect opportunity to get back in. But what really we have to look at, Bill, is in Syria, the terrorists are friends of Hollande. They're accusing the terrorists in Mali of trying to overthrow a sovereign state. But in Syria, it seems to be okay to overthrow the sovereign state. So, we're there to defeat the terrorists in Mali, but there are friends in Syria. This is a hypocrisy that's now open for the world to see.
But Patrick, if there are economic interests at play here, these governments, Mali, Niger, they actually want help to exploit their resources, don't they? So surely when Europe and Africa work together, then security and stability can be achieved through prosperity.
I think they want control. The West is very concerned that China, who's had more or less, a 15-year head start on them in Africa, that China is going to curry favor with these African nations. But so this is come in with military force, create destabilization. And most pundits don't have to be a genius to know where this is going. And it is going to go throughout the Central Africa, and Congo is the big prize in all this, because the U.S. has always favored sort of enemies of Congo. If you look at Uganda and you look at Rwanda, what's going on in the jungles there, certainly Congo is one of the richest resource countries in Africa, and it's absolutely blessed with a lot of things that Western corporations would like to get their hands on and not pay top dollar for.
So this is just the start of more regional tensions and military campaigns. But the French are saying, well, this is a militarily successful campaign. They're predicting that soon they'll be out, be able to hand over authority, and it'll all be finished in Mali and the country will be better off. So you're saying this is just the start of major instability in Africa?
Yeah, you only have to read the AFRICOM documents, the US AFRICOM documents, to know that this is a long-term plan. How many times, Bill, have we heard, oh, we're only going to go in for a few months and stabilize the situation and we'll be out? What's going to happen is they're going to be permanent French, and this is slightly out of NATO's range, so they're doing this under a new auspices. And they're going to provide logistical support, military trainers, hardware, build air bases. And so you have these different pockets of Africa where the West is vying for militarization and control. Already the US has a base in Djibouti they're launching drones from. So you have the militarization of the continent of Africa.
So just briefly, why Mali got help when it asked for France to step in, but the Central African Republic didn't get help when it did ask as well? So why would that be excluded, do you think?
Certainly, there's certain countries that have certain interests that are at the forefront of countries like France, United States, Britain, and so forth. So, it depends. I mean, look at the government in Mali. This is a junior military coup that took over a democratically elected president who fell out of favor with the U.S. So, again, it's the king-making, nation-building, and you're going to see more and more of this in Africa. Africa is untapped economically. And the West is really racing with China to gain sort of dominance on this continent because of all the uranium, the cobalt, the titanium, the lithium, all the rare earth minerals, the gas, the oil. Africa is absolutely bountiful, and this is going to be a battleground in the resource wars of the 21st century.
Patrick, really interesting to hear your perspective on this. Patrick Henningsen joining me live, geopolitical analyst there in London. Thanks, Patrick.